Hello and welcome to this introductory training into Mastery Connect for secondary teachers. I invite you to join me as we move through Mastery Connect today so that you can experience what you need to and gain some muscle memory into what we're taking on today so you can get back in and be able to work on your own later. In addition, realize that this is an opportunity for you to pause and take advantage of some work time built into this training without me having to do anything different. And so if I move ahead too quickly, feel free to pause and repeat what I'm saying. I'm going to get started with how do you log in and how do you get started with Mastery Connect. One of the simplest ways is to go to masteryconnect.com, and when you do that, there is a login button in the top right. Every teacher should have an account created for them already. If you're a new teacher, that might not happen automatically until PowerSchool rolls over with your new students in it. And if you need that right away, please contact one of the Innovative Teaching and Learning Team folks, and we'll be able to help you set that up right away. This is typically where the login page takes you. Mine went right in because it remembers me, but you'll want to choose to sign in with Google. And here you'll choose your IronMail account. So I would choose my IronMail account to sign in, and then it's going to allow me to sign directly into Mastery Connect and get started. If this is your first time in, it's going to give you a series of prompts to ask you and help you to build your profile. Those things are not all that important. Certainly the last step, which allows you or asks if you want to invite others, you can totally skip that step. Everyone in our district has Mastery Connect at this point. So with that being said, how do we get started? One more thing about how you might access Mastery Connect, I suppose, is in Canvas. If you're a Canvas user, which many of you will be in secondary, you can always access your Mastery Connect by clicking on the Mastery tab within your Canvas. So if you click Mastery from the left-hand navigation, it takes you directly into Mastery Connect within Canvas, which is nice. Your students also have that access to see their progress within Mastery Connect and access their assessments. So within Mastery Connect, how do we get started? The first place I would point you to is in Maps. And so Maps basically act as a blueprint that you will use for many courses, many different sections of students over multiple years. Okay, so it allows you to keep this and build it up to have all of your standards, potentially your assessments in there, and other resources all available in a map that you don't need to recreate every year. So this is a great tool. If I click on Maps, the way I would suggest many of you get started is under Shared with Me. Shared with Me should include maps shared with you from the district that include the district's guaranteed and viable curriculum and nothing else, which is nice because then you don't need to have a ton of standards that you're not going to work with, and you can just add to that guaranteed and viable curriculum if you wish. If you don't see any of those, again, contact the Innovative Teaching and Learning Team, any member, and we should be able to share a particular map with you if you're new to that content area, for example. So you click Shared with Me, and you'll be able to see any that have been shared from the district. I'm going to go, for today's sake, into an ICSD 10th grade language arts map, and all I want to do is under the Shared with Me is I will then make a copy of that map for myself. Okay, so I make a copy of this map by clicking here. I'll copy the map. Okay. And now what comes in is what the district has put in there, the district group of teachers who went in from 10th grade language arts to decide what are the essentials, the guaranteed and viable curriculum district-wide. And so that's included in here. What I would also encourage you to do then is to then think about what other standards you want to add to this. So if I want to add another standard to what I would plan to assess with my students this year, I can click on this three-line menu, and this is kind of a power place in the map. It allows you to do a lot of things. It allows you to add units, which is what you see here when you see writing, reading, language, essential skills. Those are what we call units in Mastery Connect maps. You can add assessments, which we'll do here in a minute. You can add standards. You can also share this map with others on your team, which I would suggest doing if you're going to collaborate around shared guaranteed and viable curriculum. You can simply add collaborators. I'll also show you that here in a minute. Okay, so let's first start with how you might add standards. Click on Add Standard. I can then select from an existing standard, meaning one that exists in the Utah core, by going to Language Arts. It'll default to the Common Core unless you've selected otherwise, so I'll go all the way down to Language Arts and then select the class. This is 10th grade. And I'll be able to add as many other standards as I would like. Okay, so let's say I'm going to add those standards. When I do that, those will appear at the very bottom of my map by default, or the very top in some cases. So here we've got those will add directly to the top. I can add those into reading, which is where those standards will go. So add those in, great. Now I'm able to, and I've of course duplicated some of these, oh well. If I notice that I duplicate something, I can always remove a standard. So I can go over here and remove that standard, just like that. Okay, so I've made a duplicate of that one, and I believe there was one more that I made a duplicate of, this guy right here. I'm going to remove that one. Okay, so this allows me to then track these standards. I can also, under the standard menu, add other things like a substandard. Or I can customize what I put in the standard so that parents and students can view a customized version of this standard. That's all I'll go into for now on that. Let's now talk about assessments. If I wanted to add assessments to this map, I could do that right here. So what I'm going to do is a very basic assessment right now. It's basically a place for me to enter raw data. And so I'm going to go in and click Add Assessment. And I'm going to create a new assessment. Again, this is just going to be a placeholder for data. So in this type of assessment, it'll give you a tutorial if you like. I'm good with that. You can go through that if you'd like. This assessment, you'll see the assessment type is just actually for district admin if they want to toggle between district benchmark and formative. So I'm going to use formative. I'm going to cover one standard, one particular standard here, this writing standard. And I'm going to call this Writing Assessment 1. Have, I'm sure, a better name for it. You can offer a description if you'd like here. This is a writing assessment. Okay. And then from here, what I'm going to do is choose to not have a document at all. And actually, instead of question-based, which is an assessment you'll look at later in future Mastery Connect trainings if you'd like, I'm simply going to have open answer. Okay, this is just a spot for me to put in raw data as a team off of an assessment we're going to take maybe on paper or somewhere else that I don't want to record in, other than just the score in Mastery Connect. So what I'm going to do is say maybe this is total out of 100, and the mastery of that is maybe 90 out of 100 points is what I cut off as mastery. These cutoffs, by the way, are basically the limit. If you get 90 or above, you'll have mastery. If I get, let's say, 80 or above, I'll be proficient. Now this is totally up to you, depends on the assessment that you're taking and you're taking a look at. In this case, I'm just going to keep it simple, and approaching the standard, I'm going to write as 65. If you've got 65, then that's the lowest you could be at approaching. Anything under 65 will be developing, will be that red kind of indicator for you to know that there needs some intervention here. So that's my way to just add in a quick place for me to enter raw scores as a team and to collaborate around the data on this writing assessment 1. So I create that assessment, and now that should exist automatically now in my map under that writing standard. So you'll notice you don't see any students in here yet. And the difference between maps and trackers is maps give you all the blueprint for the standards and assessments you want to use, but the trackers are actually the place where you record student data within those standards and assessments. So in this case, what I'm going to do now is create a tracker from this map. So first, I generally tell people to build the map, build out what assessments you want to put in there. You don't need to build it all at once. Once I create a tracker that's connected to this map, I can always update the tracker later with a click of a button, and I'll show you that. Okay, so let's create a tracker from this map. The easiest way to do that is within the map where we're at to click Create Tracker. So I click Create Tracker up in the top here. Now, for you, the default under adding students will be set to import from SIS, meaning import from Student Information System, in our case PowerSchool. So it's going to import your students from a particular section of a course. Okay, and you'd be able to see all the sections of the course and their description there. I don't have that, so mine defaults to add students individually, which is what I'm going to do today. You will not need to do that. But I'm going to do a description here. We'll call this my English 10 tracker, and I can give it a little color if I want to. That looks like a cool color. Okay, so create a tracker from this map. Normally, if you were doing this, all of your students would then come into this tracker. For me, it's going to ask me to add some students individually, which I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to add a student. I'm just going to type in a name, call it Bobby Smith. Okay, and Bobby Smith's student ID is really simple. Okay, so I'm now going to close that. You won't need to ever do that. Okay, so Bobby now has this assessment sitting in here waiting for him to be scored. You see all the standards that we've added to our map are automatically in here. This little one shows you that there's an assessment waiting to be assessed in here. Okay, so for me, what I can do, again, this assessment's just a placeholder. I hover over this, I click assess, and I see all of the assessments that are sitting there waiting in that standard. So here I can just add scores for students. And so I'm just going to show you what this looks like when I add a score of, let's say, 88 out of 100. Remember that this assessment was out of. So automatically recognizes that that's proficient, and that score is sitting there waiting for Bobby. And you'd see other students listed here. And if I want to do more assignments over time, they would be listed in different columns over time here. So you can see that progress over time within this standard. If I change that, note that it will change to, let's say, 64. Just missed the cutoff for approaching. You are now developing Bobby. Or likewise, if I were to do like 96, that's going to be mastery. So you kind of see how this works. It's just a simple place to enter raw scores and to be able to view data. We're going to be able to look at reports a little later on that you'll want to be able to see, and you could share as a team to look at data as an entire team. There's also some pieces that we're going to want to look at, including how do you go back and add anything to that map. Now that I've been able to get in there, I have a tracker. Well, I didn't really add that many assessments. I want to be able to add more. So in my maps, I will find under one that I've created that copy of the 10th grade map. Of course, there's several of it because I've fiddled with this more than once apparently. Let's make sure that this is the right one. Nope, not the right one. You won't have so many copies to worry about, hopefully. This is not the right one either. Must be the very last one. Here we go. So I am now in this copy of the map that I was working in earlier. There's my assessment that I just added. Maybe I wanted to add another assessment or another standard to this, okay, to this map. Let's just add a standard quickly. I'll add in another essential skill. So I go add standard. I'm going to go from the essential skills are found under other subjects, and they're in a custom, very top, custom iron district class. We're going to use the essential learning outcomes, essential 8, and I'm going to add for our students' creativity as a standard I'm going to assess. So I add that. It again appears at the top, and I'm going to then drag that into the essential skills where I want that to be assessed and housed, if you will. Okay, so now creativity is sitting there. Now, notice there's changes, right? Oh boy. And so if I added any assessments or standards or anything like that, I click Apply Updates, and then that will all go to those trackers that are associated. And I could have several, right? Different one for each section I would have, and it would apply all the updates there. Note that if you try to delete anything from the map and apply the updates, that won't change the trackers. Only additions to will change the trackers. So this is just a very quick beginning of how you would use the maps to then ultimately work towards the trackers and enter raw scores and assessments. There will be more trainings to come on adding assessments and working in the reports and other functions of Mastery Connect.